In my view, he is a good thing for America, the nation, and America, the democracy, because everybody's talking about America and the democracy, and we're sitting here doing this again. And he is potentially a very bad thing for the Republic and the Union and the United States. And it might seem strange to make that distinction because as things stand, we very often think of those things as the same, right? We will say USA and we'll say America interchangeably. And as I tried to argue in this column, I may be wrong, I think that Trump's absolute structural purpose, his foundational purpose, is to split those two things in half, to get them away from one from the other.
Explain how he does that and what that means. People might hear you and say, wait a second, these things sound like something that are inextricably bound.
So they're not, in my opinion, right? 1776 is the moment that the American nation was born, and it was born of breaking the law and defying a king. So that's the rebelliousness, right? That's the flags on the back of pickups. It's great. It's all American. 1789, when the Constitution is ratified, is the moment that we chose to be legalists and chose to be a republic. Alexander Hamilton in that interregnum was saying, look, should we have a king, right? And there were arguments about how powerful the president should be. These arguments have never been resolved. And we saw with Nixon, we saw with Kennedy, the imperial presidency, because again, we haven't decided as a nation what exactly our republic is for. So if President Trump truly wanted to create a presidency with unlimited powers, he wouldn't be able to do it within the existing 1789 United States framework. He would have to somehow appeal to the 1776 animal spirits, to misuse a term, of the nation.
So is that where Doge comes in your view?
Goodness me. So Elon Musk is supposed to be a genius. He doesn't realize he's the fall guy, right? He's the fall guy. He's going to be ousted at some point. When Doge goes too far, which it will, probably into entitlements, Trump will need to...
Which is what they are dealing with.
Which is what they want to do as we speak. Trump is going to need someone that wasn't confirmed by the Senate to get rid of quickly, and that's Musk. And I think we saw Musk on Fox the other day sweating it a little bit with Ludlow because it looked like he's starting to realize that maybe he's in trouble, his businesses aren't doing very well, and so on. So Doge is the kind of battering ram. It's like the vanguard that's seeing how far, like a test balloon, how far this stuff can go. And when challenged, Musk will be quite easy to peel off.
But when is, because I think it's safe to say that some have thought government has gotten really big, and there's some security in that you don't move fast and break things that maybe shouldn't be broken. But at the same time, it's very easy to get lazy over existing structure, and waste does get created. And, whether it's, so what's the balance between good efficiency and disruption, especially in a government like the United States?
Well, I guess there's 2 points, right? One is that whether or not the American people want a big government is debatable. That's why we have elections. Whether or not the Americans want an all-powerful government was already decided at the aforementioned Constitutional Congress, right? So I'm very careful to try and prize away an efficient government from the size of the government. Donald Trump wants a smaller government, which he then says is more efficient. So those of us who are worried, and this is the second point, those of us who are worried about fiscal and debt will go, okay, that makes sense. But that's disingenuous, because what he actually wants is a more powerful government. He wants
a concentration of power.
A concentration of power.
Yeah.
So Lord Acton famously says that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think power accumulates as well, and this is what we should be watching for.
I want to go back to what you said about Elon and Doge, because I think a lot of people have been proven wrong over the past few months when they said, this is a honeymoon that is going to end badly. These two look pretty close at this point. And given Elon's status as the wealthiest person in the world, he proved in this election cycle that he's incredibly powerful with helping to elect people.
And you're saying he might be there longer than I think?
I think I am, yeah. Just because he has the resources, and he has said he wants to use these in other parts of the ballot.
So the president, with respect, has a long and storied history of using and discarding people. And I don't think that Elon Musk, for all of his wealth, is...
I mean, there are many books written by those people who one
right,
could,
there's a library.
Describe have been discarded.
There's a library of people that have been let down by the president, should we say. I guess I'm contending, I mean, I concede too that maybe the time is something I couldn't possibly forecast, but I think the function of putting Musk into this thing called Doge is that he's easy to get rid of. He's easy to point out later and say, this guy made these mistakes, not me. Right? And at that point, he's gone.
So when you hear things like Canada, and this is something I think we all too are asking ourselves, again, what is the end game here, do you think, in terms of President Trump?
Honestly, I might regret saying this. Okay, maybe this is my last appearance on your show. I don't know. I think he's serious. Canadians are. If it ever comes off kind of jokey on air, I'll be honest with you, we've had people reach out and say, hey, this is serious. We don't think this is a joke. I think it's dead serious. I think Donald Trump's vision is a big Sharpie around the entire of North America, including Greenland, with Trumpland written on it. And I think that there's some strategic sense to this, right? Because of the world of, you look at the Second World War, it was just who can get the biggest load of resources in one place. And if you look at Russia and China, they kind of have Eurasia on lock. So it would strategically make sense for the North Americans to converge together, if not for the fact that we don't behave like that. And the very reason for this country is law. As I said, 1789. So the 1789 edition of the United States cannot annex Canada, right? It tried, it failed, it didn't work. But the sort of pre-1776 bubbling rebelliousness of the nation might. And I fear that he's, as I say, dead serious.
If he's dead serious, are you saying or predicting that he might, in fact, try to make Canada the 51st state?
I don't know that he would make it the 51st state. I feel like that's a meme. But I think he would try to bring...
He talks about it all the time.
He talks about it all the time, and he well might, albeit I imagine that the Republicans would never be elected again because all of my Canadian friends are pretty liberal. I don't know how that works, right?
Yeah.
But I think that what he wants is some control over the North American hemisphere. It's almost like the Monroe Doctrine is being extended north and being extended north at the expense of these polities that already exist, in particular Denmark and Canada.
If we go along with your thinking, and some others think that he too is not kidding, is it something that could happen without U.S. military action?
Well, at some point, the Canadians would not be happy about this, right? You can't tell a sovereign state, you now belong to us.
Right.
Others have tried that in history, Napoleon, Stalin, Hitler, and it never ends well. So I think that the U.S. military would have to, at some point, invade. This again, it's like amazing to hear yourself say this on a live stream. So I don't think Canada...
But to be fair, the president has talked about it. So we're kind of carrying it out, like how this might happen.
Sure. I think it's not impossible. You could come in from Greenland. We have bases there.
We're Bloomberg. We got to talk markets big picture and the way that they have responded to big picture President Trump's policies over the last few weeks, or what they view as his policies. Do you think it's fair to say that the equity and bond markets have not necessarily been a check on the president?
He said it himself, Tim, right? You don't look at the stock market anymore.
Yeah, but he said a lot of things.
He said a lot of things.
Do you take that to heart?
I think he's unrestrained. I think at this point he's not thinking about popularity in the way that he has previously. Something has changed in his demeanor.
Well, he's not running for re-election, so...
let me
rephrase that. He's not supposed to.
He's not supposed to run for re-election. Again, there's this whole thing.
But this goes back to law.
Law versus whole thing. Right. This is whole thing. I think he's fundamentally trying to reshape North America. I think Russia is a distraction. Of course, we have to talk about markets, right? So I don't want to pivot away from that.
Yeah.
But the question for me is, China, is he getting ready to hand Taiwan over per Ukraine?
And full credit to our producer, Cece, because she said, as we were planning for this, about how Trump and his cabinet have signaled that they're content to sit back on Taiwan and China. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bissett even said he doesn't see China taking action against Taiwan in this term. So what does this messaging tell you? Is this ceding ground on global democracy? Should we feel confident that Trump's presence is enough of a deterrent? Only got about 45, 50 seconds.
Democracy is okay because we voted for him. The republic might not be. And this is what I mean. It might be that there's a period of massive populism in this country, including the ceding of Taiwan, and democracy in Taiwan is in trouble. But in this country, it's doing pretty well. And that's a real head scratcher, right? Because we may choose to abandon democratic allies.